Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. I suppose we'll go ahead and do another show. You know, this is what we do on a Tuesday. The regular routine. All appears to be normal for today, except for an ex-president violating the Espionage Act and hiding out in Mar-a-Lago, I suppose. And who knows where all the paperwork is hiding. Never know where he's stashed any of that stuff. Plenty to catch up on that front. Lots of commentary, lots of new calls from Trump. Oh, let's see. Oh, yes, right. The very interesting call on his Truth Social platform. I don't even think we should even bother calling it that, but on his private messaging system, on which he puts out his press releases, in which journalists dutifully screen capture and then carry over to Twitter, which I'm sure is exactly what Trump wants, but at the same time, it's exactly what we want too, to be able to keep tabs on him without having to see him every 5 seconds and see every single tweet that he sends out. It's a nice way of monitoring him, actually. And things have remained relatively quiet, but I understand. I don't even know if I pocketed it because it was just kind of like dopey and weird. But at any rate, Donald Trump used his stupid Truth Social thing yesterday to declare that he was, once again, that he's the rightful president, and called for his reinstatement, his quote-unquote reinstatement to office immediately, or that the elections of 2020 be canceled. I don't know how the congressional elections should be treated for 2020, but the presidential election for 2020 should be canceled and reversed, or at the very least, reheld, and he should be able to run and lose again. Because legitimate reasons. No one knows what the hell he's thinking, except that he's just exceptionally delusional, and I don't know. So far, I don't think anybody is just saying it that way in the news, and I don't even know who's covering it. I've seen the tweet containing the screen grab. And like most news organizations, I really didn't even bother putting it aside to treat it with anything, because he's going untreated. So I don't see why his text messages should go treated any better anyway. But just so you know where we are, that's the latest out of his camp, that I guess he really believes that, and I restate my case that it is elder abuse for his adult children to allow him to continue to communicate in this fashion, but it's worth money to them, so they do it, and that's exactly what makes it elder abuse. And one day, it will all be looked back upon as another set of gigantic crimes committed by the Trump family that were lost in the shuffle. There are so many, and I guess that's the reason. All right, let's see. There also is news, and this I did take note of from tweets yesterday. Let's see if there... I know that there have to be write-ups by now on what's going on here, but I grabbed the tweet from yesterday afternoon, evening, from Zachary Cohen of CNN, the national security reporter at CNN, noting for the record that the U.S. Secret Service Assistant Director, Tony Ornato, you'll remember his name, from the rundown of his activities and the things that he said along the way, or was alleged to have said along the way in the developments of January 6th. He was the Secret Service Director / White House Personnel Director or something like that. Or Director of Oval Office Operations or something. Trump made him a White House operative while he was still a Secret Service operative, and also made him sort of something of a personal bodyguard. And this was the Secret Service person who was trying to relate the stories to Cassidy Hutchinson about how Trump had grown irate inside of the SUV limo that he was riding in that day for the several 100-foot trip from the White House to the ellipse, but angry that he was not being taken to the Capitol to participate in the riot, but rather being taken back to the White House, and that he was irate. And then there was the story that was circulating that he had made some lunge for the wheel or had perhaps taken a swing at the Secret Service agents driving the vehicle, and then they blurred the lines and tried to claim they never said that, etc., etc. But at any rate, I think that for the next couple of days, there were irate statements out of the Secret Service and elsewhere saying, no, we deny all of this stuff, and we'll come out and tell our story and deny it to everybody's face. And then they never actually did that. But anyway, the news about Tony Ornato is he's quitting the Secret Service. That's how Zach Cohen has it. U.S. Secret Service Assistant Director Tony Ornato left the agency Monday. Sources tell other CNN reporters, they are listed here. This is a significant departure coming 2 months after Cassidy Hutchinson's explosive testimony before the January 6th committee. Referring back here, I think the linked articles or the included articles goes back to the testimony, which you probably don't need recapped. Is it even in the, didn't make my, the cut for the Washington Post Top Politics News Roundup for today, which is somewhat surprising considering how boring the selections actually ended up being. So, well, we won't use their guide here. But, yeah, that seems like fun news. Let's see if we can pick up some of the reporting on that from the Google News search. Well, who should we use? CNN didn't give us a good link before, but now they hadn't written up their thing yet. Should we stick with CNN or should we go to Politico? What do you think? Let's try I don't know. Let's switch our sources and go with Politico, which is equally terrible. Secret Service official at the center of the January 6th committee probe retires. Tony Ornato, who also served as a top aide in Donald Trump's White House, that was the very interesting and unique double billing there, is the latest high-level official in the Secret Service to announce his departure recently, which, frankly, they should probably be cleaning house there. Anyway, Tony Ornato, this is, reported by Kyle Cheney, who was getting praise yesterday as we repeated Armando's support and praise for the way he's been covering the Trump legal filings lately in the Mar-a-Lago search. Anyway, Tony Ornato, the senior Secret Service official who served as a top aide in Donald Trump's White House and faced scrutiny from the January 6th Select Committee earlier this summer, announced his retirement Monday. The agency confirmed Ornato's retirement, which was announced internally earlier in the day. He's the latest high-level official in the Secret Service to announce his departure in recent weeks. Spokesperson Anthony Guglielmi. Wow. Guglielmi. Okay. We'll try that. Said Ornato, who joined the Secret Service in 1997, became eligible for retirement earlier this year and leaves the agency in good standing. Ornato's role in the Trump White House made national headlines after explosive testimony by former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, who said he had briefed Trump and other White House officials about armed elements within Trump's rally crowd on the morning of January 6th, 2021. By the way, just to go back to it, I note for the record, yes, they do say he's leaving the agency in good standing. Allegedly. I mean, that's what they're saying about him now, and his standing, I don't know whether his official standing will change, but I suspect as we learn more about what he did on January 6th and what he may have just made up about January 6th, it should damage his standing, though I probably won't change anything in the official records of his service. Anyway, although Ornato quickly signaled he was willing to testify in response to Hutchinson's account, he has yet to appear for a new interview with the Select Committee, according to two people familiar with the discussions, and I wonder whether he'll use his resignation to try to get out of anything that they try to call him in for. Asked about the status of those discussions, Guglielmi said, "We have continuously made Tony Ornato available." He noted, however, that Ornato is now a private citizen and no longer a federal employee. See? In a statement, Ornato said he retired today, quote, to pursue a career in the private sector. Well, okay. Which one? Which career? Not saying? Okay. I retired from the U.S. Secret Service after more than 25 years of faithful service to my country, including serving the past 5 presidents. He said, I long planned to retire and have been planning this transition for more than a year. Ornato's departure comes shortly after the director of the Secret Service, James Murray, announced his own intention to retire, but put it on hold amid expanding investigations into the agency's conduct in the days surrounding the Capitol attack. The Department of Homeland Security Inspector General is investigating the deletion of thousands of text messages by dozens of officials as part of what the agency has described as a phone upgrade. Those missing messages include those sent on and around January 6th. Hutchinson also indicated that it was Ornato who described to her a January 6th altercation between Trump and Robert Engel, the head of the then president's Secret Service detail, in the presidential SUV. That encounter took place, according to Hutchinson, after Engel told Trump he could not travel to the Capitol with his supporters. You remember all of that, and a useful reminder. And yes, I do wonder whether he will try to use his private citizen status to avoid testifying. I don't think that would work, but it might delay things a while and take a little extra time to play out. And at the very least, the Secret Service spokesperson, Guglielmi, at least, is signaling there. I think at a minimum, he's signaling he will no longer be my responsibility. I won't have to answer your questions about him anymore, but because he's a private citizen. But I don't know if that's the way it's actually going to play out. I think they'll have plenty of questions, and he may even feel compelled to answer some of them as time goes on. Okay, let's see. Other things worth mentioning and bringing up. Oh, there's nothing. So I guess that's it. And la-da-da-da-da. So, into the show. Now, there's lots still to go here. Let's see. We'll sort through some of these things. Well, this is kind of interesting. I mean, I think you probably anticipated this was going to be the case, but for confirmation's sake, I'll share this story that I found in the New York Times earlier this morning. I was reading Twitter, doing nothing, and not being particularly productive, when all of a sudden someone from the New York Times, in fact, told me about this story that was in the New York Times, which I wasn't reading. I wasn't reading any of the New York Times. I don't subscribe to the physical paper, and I don't bother flipping through the front page very often either. But I have this, I have the subscription so that I can access all these articles and share them with you, as much as that probably disturbs many of you to be paying the New York Times for all this. But I need to, they do some reporting, and we do need to share that. And people should get paid for doing this work. One of them is the person whose tweet I read, Tiffany Sue, who is also the reporter on this piece. Makes sense. You see, she promoted her own work. Well done. It's a difficult thing to do all by itself. Then the reporting on top of that is probably also difficult. And this, again, we probably would have guessed, but it's nice to have it confirmed with specificity. QAnon accounts found a home and Trump's support on Truth Social. Researchers have identified 88 users, and they love that number, 88 users promoting the conspiracy theory on Donald Trump's platform, and said he had reposted their messages 65 times. He's not being cured. Anybody who is interested in his psychiatric health, someone ought to intervene and get power of attorney over him away from his kids. Anyway, dozens of QAnon boosting accounts decamped to Truth Social this year after they were banned by other social networks, and have found support from the platform's creator, and I would have put that in air quotes, creator, but they didn't, former President Donald J. Trump. I also would have put air quotes around former president, too. But anyway, according to a report released on Monday, to which they link here, NewsGuard, that's, I guess, whose report it was, a media watchdog that analyzes the credibility of news outlets, found 88 users, promoting the QAnon conspiracy theory on Truth Social, each to more than 10,000 followers. Of those accounts, 32 were previously banned by Twitter. I was actually surprised by the number being 88. I don't think that they actually planned that, but it would be interesting if they did. But I thought it would be a higher number, but I guess that's the number of users who are prominent QAnon conspiracy promoters and who have more than 10,000 followers on Truth Social, which I imagine is not quite as easy to get because it's such a garbage network and nobody's on it. But, you know, these guys are bot driven, and once you get the word out about who you are, the bots take care of the following. So it's not that hard probably to gather 10,000 once you get rolling, but there's a smaller pool to choose from. Anyway, 32 of those 88 accounts were previously banned by Twitter, so of course they would find a home there. Twitter barred Mr. Trump over fears that he might incite violence after the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. It's an interesting way of putting it. He had just incited violence at the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, but they feared he would do it again, and that's a legit fear, but it's interesting. It's an interesting way of putting it without, you know, pinning the blame for the actual violence on him directly, even though, well, duh. He started Truth Social as an alternative in February of 2022. He has amplified content from 30 of the QAnon accounts to his more than 3.9 million Truth Social followers, reposting their messages 65 times since he became active on the platform in April, according to the report. He's not simply President Trump, the political leader here. He is the proprietor of a platform. Said Stephen Brill, co-chief executive of NewsGuard. Oh, is that what happened to Brill? Do you remember, Brill's content? Was he like the first guy to, make popular usage of the word content for, well, what we now all know as content, but I think he might have been one of the first to use that term. I mean, it is what it is. It's pretty generic, but I think it was an innovation of sorts. Brill, Stephen Brill. Well, now co-chief executive of NewsGuard and founder of the magazine The American Lawyer, which I think he's the founder of several magazines, including Brill's content. But this one I haven't heard of, but I think he's serially a founder of magazines. Well, anyway, that would be the equivalent of Mark Zuckerberg reposting content from supporters of QAnon. I see what he's saying. As the ostensible founder of the network, it makes a big deal, or it becomes a big deal when you are the one reposting these things. And to that extent, I guess I will agree. Millions of QAnon followers believe that an imaginary cabal of sex trafficking, Satan-worshipping liberals is controlling the government and that Mr. Trump is leading the fight against it. Well, at least they do credit the liberals for being strictly religious, even if it is Satan-worshipping that they're practicing. Fantastical QAnon ideas have taken root in mainstream Republican politics. That's a big problem. Although some supporters have struggled at the polls, the movement has been viewed by law enforcement as a potential domestic terror threat. It is. And was linked to the Capitol riot, but was also, if they don't say it, should be linked to gunmen showing up at Capitol, or Comet Pizza, rather, and somebody showing up making bomb threats atop the Hoover Dam, and a few other attacks as well. They're fairly dangerous. Anyway, the movement has been viewed as a potential domestic terror threat, was linked to the Capitol riot. There were plenty of people in their Q shirts with Q flags there. Tech companies such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch have all cracked down on QAnon content. The other platforms have taken some steps to deal with QAnon and other similar types of misinformation, but here, Truth Social, it's pretty clear that they're not, Mr. Brill said. Truth Social did not respond to questions about NewsGuard's findings. Instead, in a statement sent through a representative, the social media platform said that it had, quote, reopened the internet and given the American people their voice back. Yeah. Mr. Trump previously retweeted more than a dozen Twitter posts from QAnon promoting accounts in a single afternoon in 2020. Soon after, speaking about the conspiracy theorists, he said he had heard these are people that love our country. Well, you heard wrong. On Truth Social, one user with more than 31,000 followers and 3 Qs in his profile name posted an image in May of Mr. Trump sitting on a throne with a crown and a Q emblem behind him. Mr. Trump reposted the image. Mr. Trump has also amplified messages that included the QAnon slogan, yes, right, the one that stands for "Where we go one, we go all," but they do it in texting language with just the initials, and referred to a storm, a description for the mass arrests that the QAnon faithful believe will be used to destroy the deep state, which doesn't exist, of course. And like I was saying yesterday, if Trump is able to leak the names of undercover intelligence agency operatives and live, the mythical deep state, as they understand it, just clearly does not exist. Anyway, other messages later backed by Trump include a call for civil war, that was nice, and claims that the 2020 presidential election, which he lost, was a coup, according to the report. Mr. Trump also shared messages from at least a dozen times from an account that posted about the storm and a war against sex traffickers and pedophiles to its more than 36,000 followers, NewsGuard found. Ricky Schiffer, a man killed by the police this month after he tried to breach the FBI's Cincinnati office, had also engaged with the same account. Of the QAnon accounts identified by Truth Social, by NewsGuard, 47 have red verification badges, which the platform says it reserves for VIPs with an account of public interest. Data.ai, which monitors App Store activity, said Truth Social had been downloaded 3 million times in the United States on Apple iOS systems through August 26th. Truth Social executives and backers have also interacted with QAnon supporters on the platform. Devin Nunes, a California Republican who resigned from Congress after 19 years to become Truth Social's chief executive, regularly engaged with and tagged at Q. I guess that's their address on there. They use the at like Twitter does. That account, which has more than 218,000 followers, has used "trust the plan" and other phrases associated with the conspiracy theory, NewsGuard said. Mr. Trump teamed up with Digital World Acquisition, a special purpose acquisition company, to start Truth Social. They paid for the whole thing, of course. Digital World's chief executive, Patrick Orlando, has also reposted QAnon catchphrases for his nearly 10,000 followers on the platform, according to the report, which a representative for Mr. Orlando described as a false and defamatory accusation. Okay. Well, it probably is true and defamatory. Anyway, Mr. Orlando, well, it's not defamatory if it's true. I understand that. Okay, never mind. Mr. Orlando does not follow or pay any attention to QAnon, the representative Adam L. Schwartz said in an email, and he has no idea what constitutes so-called common QAnon catchphrases. I doubt that very much, but okay. And it occurs to me here that how many followers did they say Trump had on Truth Social? I think they said it a little earlier up here. Yes, his 3.9 million Truth Social followers. And then down below, they make the interesting comment that, who says it? And how do they claim to have come by this knowledge? Well, I'll find it here somewhere, but I think they just were saying that somebody who measures such things said that there were, 3 million downloads of the Truth Social app from the Apple iStore. Now, of course, people could be downloading it on other platforms as well. Here it is, data.ai. 3 million times downloaded on Apple iOS systems. And, taking into account that there are, of course, other systems and the Android platform and, I guess a small number of other ones that might not be smartphone based, I suppose could be desktop apps elsewhere on other operating systems. But it is interesting that there were 3 million downloads on Apple iOS, but Trump has 3.9, almost 4 million followers. So basically everybody who's ever downloaded Truth Social is following Donald Trump, which wouldn't be surprising considering that was the reason for the existence of Truth Social. But I also wondered whether that's an automatic thing. Like it's his network. So, I assume he'd be able to simply order such a thing and have it done and would have I'm sure they didn't even bother to stop to think about the ethics of it because there's no ethics of Truth Social because it's a Trump endeavor and it has no ethics to begin with. But I wonder if it's, I'm sure nobody on the system resents it because they're all Trump fans or are Trump haters who are there to monitor Trump anyway. But I wonder if it's like, another one of those PR blunders that would otherwise resonate for a while, like U2 teaming up with Apple to make sure / force everybody to have the latest U2 album in their music collection automatically, like it comes embedded on the phone. And, a lot of people who are otherwise, if not U2 fans, they're certainly U2 tolerant. Like, okay, I like U2. They're fine. They're nice. I enjoy their music or whatever. But what I didn't like was for it to be automatically on my phone. And it seems like it comes up prominently in all the shuffles too. But that may be my own fault for not having enough other alternatives in the queue. But at any rate, it certainly seems like they're promoting the U2 music a little harder. It seems to come up more often in shuffle than most other things do. And I wouldn't be surprised if following Donald Trump was kind of embedded in the program. That's the sort of thing that he would probably do for himself. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm hard pressed to explain having 3.9 million followers on a platform that's been downloaded in the iStore just 3 million times. Everyone who ever downloaded is following you. Okay. Hi, everybody. It's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Or read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com, and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. So many directions we could be headed in, but all of them seem to be Trump-centric today because, it's a quiet time in Washington, D.C., it being the tail end of the August recess, though we are getting ready to see Congress return shortly. And, by the way, more hearings from the January 6th committee on tap. And very little else, let's say, for Liz Cheney to spend her time on than with setting up a grand finale of sorts for the January 6th committee, or at least the grand finale of her participation on it. Unless, of course, she comes back as a consultant / investigator of some sort, the way didn't one Republican member of Congress who lost his primary at some point spend some time as a staffer, essentially, an investigator for the January 6th committee. Denver Riggleman, is that the crazy-ass name? It's stuck in my head. I think he may have spent some time doing that. Let's see. Does Wikipedia know about that? Am I right about that? Or is everyone wrong except me? And Wikipedia doesn't know it yet. It was Riggleman, right? Okay, let's see what his Wikipedia bio has to say about this. January 6th committee staffer. There it is, right in the directory. On August 6, 2021, Riggleman was appointed to serve as a senior staffer to the United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. The full name of that ridiculously long name of that committee. In April of 2022, Riggleman sent the January 6th committee chairman and vice chairwoman a letter informing them of his decision to leave the position in the coming weeks. On June 2nd, Riggleman appeared on Anderson Cooper 360 on CNN On June 3rd, this is rather detailed for this. I have a feeling that Riggleman may have put this up here. On June 3rd, 2022, Politico reported that January 6th committee staff director and former CIA Inspector General David Buckley, I didn't realize that was the case, said in an email to staff, I want you to know that I'm deeply disappointed in his decision to discuss the select committee's work on television in direct contravention to his employment agreement. Wow. I didn't realize that was the case. Anyway, so what else do you want to know? I can tell you this. Under personal life, it notes that they live in a house that has a name. Is that right? Oh, no. Okay. I thought it was the name of the house. It's actually the name of the town. Some of these high living, Republicans and occasionally Democrats as well, live in these named homes. But this is actually the name of the town, I guess. Nelliesford, a census-designated place. I always thought that was an interesting term. In Nelson County, Virginia, not Nellieford Mansion or anything like that. Okay, but who knows what they live in there. They might live in a named house in Nelliesford, for all I know. I just thought that was weird the way they put it. They reside in Nelliesford. Like normally they would say Nelliesford, VA, and have 3 daughters. Anyway, okay, just wanted to say that was the case. We did remember that correctly. So I suppose there's some precedent for Liz Cheney, let's say, if Democrats were to retain control of the House, as we all hope that they will, for our country's sake and for our own sanity, they might recommission, recharter, whatever the hell you would call it, but recreate or continue the existence of the January 6th committee. I believe it's only sort of commissioned by resolution, the resolution that created it for this Congress. So they may do that, and if they were to do that, they might, like I said, there is precedent for bringing back former members as high-ranking staffers, even though they are, I guess, well, in this case demonstrates historically, I guess you would say, the one person that they did this with, difficult to control. A former member becoming a staffer is kind of an awkward thing, but I could certainly see Liz Cheney being interested in carrying the ball forward if the committee continues to do more work. And she would probably think that would really anger Trump himself as well. She might do that, but then she would be pretty difficult to control. One, you don't really want to have a public falling out or firing. And 2, she would probably realize that. But it might be awfully entertaining to see her kind of go off on her own and go rogue on these things. But on the other hand, you don't want to go too far in trusting a Cheney to do anything at all, ever, much less your work as a Democrat. So it might be ill-advised, but you certainly couldn't keep her from going on television and discussing this thing in her own capacity. The only thing you could do is make sure that she either is or isn't, depending on your preference, read into the latest developments if the committee continues in existence and continues to develop information on its own. All right. Well, anyway, why did we talk about this? I can't remember now. How did we get to that? There must be a reason. And I'm at a loss as to what it was. Maybe was it something on Twitter that I saw? No, as it turns out. Okay, well, maybe I was looking through Pocket for another story. Gosh, I really don't remember how we got there. Well, I'm sure there was a reason and something else we wanted to segue to, but that's out the window now. Okay, well, many other things that we can bring to your attention with regard to their work. Oh, was that it? No, let's see. I'm flipping around to see if I can figure out why I was talking about this. Maybe one of you knows. At any rate, oh yes, right, things being Trump-centric, right? And then, yes, the lapse in the August recess and not much else going on. Okay, yes, and then coming back, they would be working out the final details on appropriations bills and, of course, racing the clock before they had to leave again for campaign season and then restarting the work of the January 6th committee. Okay, so speaking of the target of a lot of these investigations, How about this? I don't think I spent quite enough time yesterday on discussing just how weird, we made a point of it with Greg, discussing how weird it was that the judge down in Florida, Eileen Cannon, had indicated that she might go along with Trump's request for a special master. And I tried to, give some sense of the steps in the process that were being left behind, that were being leapfrogged by Judge Cannon, and some explanation perhaps of why she had done those things. But Mark Sumner offers a good recap, I think, that will help catch everybody up and get us all on the same page in terms of how to think about this. Right there at the front pages of Daily Kos, Trump's hand-picked judge breaks all legal rules to give him the ridiculous, quote, air quotes there, ridiculous ruling that he wanted. It is ridiculous, and she did allow him to get it, and there are a couple of competing theories as to why, but this is a pretty good explainer from Mark. It should have been possible to see what was coming when Donald Trump's team of highly unqualified attorneys managed to submit Trump's complaint incorrectly, and the judge gave them a do-over. Then the complaint came in missing everything necessary, of course, and the judge sent instructions on exactly what she wanted to see. And now the Trump-appointed judge has broken with all legal precedent and written wholly new law in the process, all to give Donald Trump exactly what he wanted, that special master. And I was saying last night, I can only imagine what Trump thinks a special master is or does. I'm sure that he heard the term mentioned and has heard his lawyers recommend it now because there was a special master appointed in sifting through evidence seized. I think we last heard it was from Michael Cohen's office, though it may also have taken place. There may also have been a special master sifting through the material taken from Rudy Giuliani's office, but that was because of the possible and purported, anyway, existence of a attorney-client relationship between the person whose office was raided and Donald Trump, and that the FBI was taking seriously. But of course, stolen documents that he had stolen from his own office when he was president, but he's no longer president, and that's how you end up stealing them. There's no attorney-client privilege to worry about there. And of course, to the extent that there's any executive privilege, that's a question that the current occupant of the White House, Joe Biden, has to answer. Anyway, I don't know what he thinks a special master does. He just sort of probably knows. Well, it will slow down the process, and it will give us an opportunity to fight with another figure in all of this and call it the deep state or whatever. And also, Rudy got one, and Mikey Cohen got one, so I should get one too. But what he thinks a special master is or what the special master does, I have no idea. As I was saying last night, this is a guy who thought ramming ramparts was a thing like that. What do you do with ramparts? You ram them. And then, of course, that the Continental Army took over the airports is a whole separate issue. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, it's special, and I'm sure he likes the word master, and his attorneys have probably vaguely explained to him, it's a bit of a lifeline, so let's go for it. Judge Eileen Cannon didn't stop at saying that she intends to appoint a special master. She insists that the federal government provide a more detailed list of the documents taken, a list to be shared with Trump. Only she seems to have missed even more steps in the process than Trump's attorneys did, like even sending the suit to the supposed, quote, defendant, or giving any reason why her court can intervene in any way. Now, again, like this we were saying, ordinarily you file suit in order for anything to happen. You also have to, even for the court to even acknowledge it as a case and put it on the docket, you have to demonstrate reliably for the court that you have served all interested parties with notice that there is such a suit. You can't just file a suit and then keep it secret from the other side, show up for a court date, and then say, well, I win by default. They haven't showed up. Well, did you tell them this was going on? If you've told them and you can verify that they know, and they don't show up, then you can enter a default judgment against them. But if you can't demonstrate that they actually knew, then you can't actually demonstrate that it was a default, you see. But at any rate, she decided to take action on the request for a special master, at least by hinting, well, I'm open to the suggestion that there should be a special master, before even requiring proof that the government had been notified of the suit. But I suppose under special circumstances, one, him being the ex-president, and two, in all likelihood, the people at the DOJ reading in the newspaper that he said he was filing this motion, and they could verify that he did file it, even if they didn't notify them properly and directly. It's a pretty high likelihood that the Department of Justice took notice of the filing of this case. I don't know if that excuses them from their responsibilities for notice requirements, but it is a thing. It's not just a secret document that was filed. Anyway, how any of this would work, the special master, I guess, and how anyone would appoint a special master to review documents classified at the highest possible level, seems not just impossible, but ridiculous. Oh, I think they could probably find a few people who would be qualified to go through those papers and have the right clearance. But then, this is entirely new legal ground, the kind that should only exist in the Twilight Zone. Actual legal experts have some opinions about this ruling, and the first one offered here is Marcy Wheeler, who would probably jump in at this point to say, I'm not a legal expert, and you shouldn't say I am, but I do a pretty good job of parsing legal terminology and have come to understand a lot about process by watching enough of these trials and searches and subpoenas and judges' rulings, etc. But she does have it largely correct. We may have cited some of these comments yesterday. Empty Wheel saying, among the many reasons this is insane, the filter protocol is public. Zillions of people have read it. She claims to be unaware of it. That is to say, I'm considering, this is the judge, the she, I'm considering appointing a special master because we have to filter this stuff because we don't know what the FBI is doing to separate out irrelevant information and possibly privileged information from information that is relevant to the subject of their search. Except we do, because the FBI has described it for the public in significant and serious detail, and somehow she has failed to become aware of it, which is interesting, especially if she's ready to proceed with the case on the assumption that the DOJ has certainly read the newspaper and knows about Donald Trump's suit, and they don't have to actually necessarily be served according to normal process because, hey, it's in the papers. So is the filter protocol, but she hasn't taken notice of it. Marcy goes on to say another reason Cannon's order is nuts is because she's basing it off Trump's egregious misrepresentation of what happened in the Southern District of New York with Rudy. Okay, he must have gotten special master after all, in which the district judge had been involved in the case for years. Rudy and Vic weren't charged. I don't know. I can't think of offhand who Vic is, V-I-C. Rudy and Vic weren't charged. They still aren't, but Parnas was. Remember Lev Parnas, right? There's a screen grab here, I guess, from... I guess this leads to her tweet, but the screen grab is, I don't know what. This court has jurisdiction to provide the equitable relief sought by movement pursuant to the court's equitable and ancillary jurisdiction, as well as Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 53. I guess this must be Cannon's ruling. In May of 2021, the government pursued a similar avenue for requesting the appointment of a special master in re search warrants executed on April 28, 2021. After securing a search warrant from a magistrate judge. What? I thought the Federalist said you couldn't do that. In U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, the U.S. Department of Justice wrote a letter to a district judge seeking the appointment of a special master. There, the Department of Justice wrote, consistent with the court's supervisory authority, the court may appoint a special master. So basically, this is her citing the fact that there was one in the Giuliani search. But, of course, Giuliani was, anyway, an attorney, and Donald Trump is not. So, whatever. Okay, that's what Empty Wool was talking about. Let's jump back to Mark Sumner's treatment. In fact, that's the end of Mark Sumner's treatment, but basically he's just bringing us up to speed on the fact that, you have to break all sorts of rules in order to even start discussing the case at this point, and she seems intent on doing that. It's still the possibility, still every possibility, though, as was suggested yesterday, that this is out of an abundance of caution and the interest in giving a former president who has a proclivity to lie about how he's being disadvantaged in these things, give him every possible benefit of the doubt, and then if he just loses and is later convicted on this stuff, you can point and say, we gave him every chance. But I don't know. It's difficult to know whether a Trump-appointed judge is really going to be interested in that or not. We will have to wait and see. There's really just not much we can do otherwise. And I think the government is probably prepared to proceed. They may have been surprised by the weirdness with which this judge moved this quickly to do this stuff, but I think that they anticipated being asked to defend this question and others surrounding it around the search for a long time, and they answered all the questions in their mind probably before they even applied for the search warrant, so they've been waiting for this opportunity. Let's see. Other things to consider about Trump. There are many. How about this one? This is something that Greg, I think, had on tap to share yesterday, but I don't think he got to it in the crush of his other stories from the New Republic. He may have mentioned it, but I don't think we read it. Donald Trump is increasingly cornered, and yes, this should terrify you. Oh, okay. Michael Tomasky writes this for the New Republic. While the path to accountability must be pursued, let's not kid ourselves. Storm and stress await us all. And now all the cute people are saying, storm, storm, storm. See? Even he said it. Over the weekend, a South Florida federal judge appointed by Donald Trump, you know who, Cannon, and approved by the Senate a few days after the 2020 election, with 21 Democrats voting against her, by the way, announced her preliminary intent, whatever that might even mean, to grant Trump's wish for a special master to review the Mar-a-Lago classified documents. And they're not Mar-a-Lago classified. They are White House classified documents stolen from the White House, with which he absconded to Perv-a-Lago. But, okay, that's just too long a description. This move may allow his legal team to slow walk this disaster for a little bit. A court will have to go through the material to determine if anything is covered by Trump's claims of executive privilege. This seems hard to imagine, given that executive privilege has never before applied to an ex-president, but we'll have to see. You never know. Up could be down, according to this robed personage, and who knows what the Supreme Court would do with it in the end. I have added all of that commentary. Anyway, what happens on that front, whatever happens on that front, Trump knows the truth. D-Day is coming. Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray, and a widening circle of other people know exactly what's in those top secret documents he has, or had anyway, and Trump knows they know. And there's reason now to think that some of it is pretty explosive. That's on top of the mere fact that it's apparently illegal for him to possess them in the first place. It's not an apparent, but okay, it's for real. This brings us to an interesting and terrifying new reality. The new reality is a pop-up ad has moved all the text. Trump has lived his entire life flouting the law, wriggling out of trouble because he's rich and powerful and could hire good lawyers. But this time is different. Now he's cornered. Thus, the terrifying question, what is a cornered Donald Trump capable of? He's not a very capable person, but this is an interesting question. I decided to ask someone who knows him a lot better than I do. I emailed that question to Michael Cohen. How interesting. This past Saturday, and he emailed back this. There is nothing Donald Trump won't do to save himself from accountability. Starting a civil war, threatening to trade government secrets to our adversaries, depending on how you like to say that, or throwing others under the bus, or throwing unders under the buff, you know what I'm saying here, to deflect from his culpability are just a few of the options circling inside Donald's head, and there's a lot of room to do it. This country needs to be very concerned with an exclamation point. He says, okay, well, that's a lot. Let's examine these scenarios one by one. One, we really are doing this. Starting a civil war. Okay, let's consider it. I don't take Cohen to mean that Trump, more pop-ups. I don't take Cohen to mean that Trump would literally make a call to arms, though it's quite likely that he actually would, but all right. Rather, it's that he would incite such rage against the Justice Department, the FBI, and the entire system, so methodically closing in on him that the text would shift again. That he would winkingly, or maybe not even, encourage violence. Trump's allies are already making such calls and have been for a while. Steve Bannon has told his listeners that, quote, this is war. Well, that's pretty plain, right? And has referred to the FBI as the Gestapo. Yawn. Members of Congress have tweeted about the need to defund the FBI, that's murdery Trader Green, and called for a complete dismantling and elimination of the Democrat brown shirts known as the FBI. Paul Gosar, they're such Democrats over at the FBI. That is Civil War level rhetoric, and at least one Ohio man took this rhetoric seriously enough to attack an FBI field office in Cincinnati, which led to his death. Like Ashley Babbitt, Trump's killing them all, but too slowly for my tastes. Mona Charen of The Bulwark has gathered several examples of this kind of incendiary commentary in a link here. Trump, if indicted, will throw gallons of his own gasoline on that toxic and treasonous fire. Although I would suggest that he would throw gallons of other people's gasoline on that toxic and treasonous fire. If he owns any gasoline, he'll be keeping it and he'll be throwing other people's gasoline on things. I used to ask myself, when will this Trump movement become an unambiguously fascist movement? I added an A here. Become unambiguously fascist, such that no one can even bother debating it or denying it any longer. And the answer I settled on is this: when he raises a private army or militia of his own that sometimes works alongside local police and federal law enforcement officials and at other times battles them, but that answers only to Trump and operates under the rules of engagement that only Trump enforces. I mean, I guess, but I still don't know that everyone would admit that it's openly fascist at that point. But it's certainly warlordism, and everybody should think of it that way. And everybody should be thinking of Proud Boys and other militias, 3%ers, etc., as warlordism. And, at that point, we'll be no better than Mogadishu. So, lest we look down our noses at them, we're descending into the same sort of warlord chaos that they're in. Anyway, that, after all, is what Hitler's brown shirts did. They were an explicitly Nazi party militia. We saw that in an ad hoc way on January 6, 2021. That was a fascist militia that stormed the Capitol. It just wasn't a standing one. If Trump is indicted, it is, alas, no longer far-fetched to imagine that some kind of standing militia, I'll call it a Fedayeen Donald, if you will, not the author's words, but mine, but not far-fetched to imagine that some sort of standing militia organized not even around one political party, but around one man, will conjure itself into being and carry out acts of violence against certain individuals or institutions. What about trading government secrets to our adversaries? Well, this scenario has me really worried. The form I can see this most readily taking is blackmail of Garland and the entire U.S. government. That is, if you indict me, Trump may communicate privately to Garland. I'm turning everything I have over to the Kremlin. I know that sounds utterly insane, but who can doubt that he'd do it in a heartbeat if he thought it was his best play? Trump has, in fact, already sent a cryptic, nice democracy you got here, it'd be a shame if anything happened to it kind of message to Garland. And let me remind you of Cohen's first sentence: there is nothing Donald Trump wouldn't do to save himself from accountability. And of course, the one I famously mangled earlier, throwing others under the bus. Of all the scenarios, this is the one that might be entertaining as opposed to some grave threat to democracy. Trump might have dirt on some of his allies that he'll release publicly to save his own skin or to humiliate them if they should turn on him. But while it might look like a hilarious spectacle for a while, a series finale on the long-running reality show in which Trump's inner circle has been trapped. This, too, would still eventually precipitate and extend a long national nightmare that would have Trump as its central figure. Cable news talking heads are saying, after the release of last week's FBI redacted affidavit, that an indictment of Trump is now less a matter of if than of when. As New Republic contributor Alex Thomas noted, that when could be a while off. Investigations involving classified material tend to be long and drawn out, but if an indictment is a fait accompli, then we're in for something we've never seen in this country, something perhaps never seen in any country or certainly in any democracy, a former head of state potentially leading a civil war and or committing open treason by using state secrets for leverage. Okay, that is an interesting combination there. Using the state secrets, I guess. Remember the pattern of Trump's life. He has spent 50 years doing whatever he wanted to do, giving no thought to the law or consequences of his actions, and he has never faced any serious consequences. Through endless trials and 4 bankruptcies and all the rest, the only thing that has happened in his life is that he's gotten more powerful and richer. Certainly since being president, the way he's cashed in on occupying the White House for 4 years, with millions of Americans quite literally ready to kill or die for him, he's truly been bulletproof. And I guess that's a pretty good description of things. They can finish up this article here with the music running until perhaps now. He may finally have crossed the line that will force the system he has so long ignored and abused to stop him and try to bring him to justice. What do we get when we combine a completely conscienceless human being with the power and latitude given by our Constitution and a body of laws to presidents and a propaganda apparatus that constantly lies for him? We are about to find out. Okay, and there's even more news about what he might do in terms of throwing others under the bus. Next. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. All right, I got to see if I might need to grab this tweet and open it up for consideration later. Okay, let's see. From Robert Costa. Let's see what's going on here. CBS News has confirmed this Mark Caputo story from NBC News. Let's see. Kise, K-I-S-E, Kise, I'm not certain even who that is. Former Florida Solicitor General Chris Kise is now working with Trump's lawyers. DOJ filing coming later today on the special master, then a hearing on Thursday in West Palm Beach. Here's Caputo's tweet about it. Trump signed 360-degree lawyer, whatever that's supposed to mean, to rep him on the Mar-a-Lago documents case. Former Florida Solicitor General Chris Kise, K-I-S-E, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, who has notched 4 wins before SCOTUS, but on normal cases that actually, there was grounds for, and has a reputation as a political knife fighter. So, okay, very interesting. But we still have to wait. And Thursday is when we'll actually have the hearing on the special master before Judge Cannon. We'll see whether Chris Kise can work any magic on that day. All right, let's see. I mentioned that there were other strange stories about people about whom he would be releasing intelligence for political advantage. Rolling Stone has an entry in this, and I've seen people tweeting about it this morning. I'll have to go to the pocket version to read it to kind of get around the paywall thing. I'm sorry, I can't subscribe to everything. But Adam Rawnsley and Aswin Subsang, I apologize for not doing enough to support the career of Aswin Subsang, and I don't know. I don't know if Rolling Stone is really going to be a fruitful subscription for me, but yeah, well, okay. At any rate, he's getting paid, and that's good news because we use a lot of his material. This is a story in Rolling Stone entitled, Trump bragged he had, quote, intelligence, and I really should just stop there, on what? On Macron's sex life. Emmanuel Macron, the French president. And as we know, there was, among the items seized from Pervalago the other day, information about the president of France. They did not specify exactly what that information was, but I guess it might have something to do with this. The subheader says the FBI seized the document with, quote, info on the French president during the Mar-a-Lago raid, and that has officials in both countries hunting for answers. And I guess this is one possibility about what those answers might be. Let's see. Switching over to Pocket View. On the list of the FBI's list of documents seized from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, Perv-a-Lago, item 1A is listed solely as Info Re, President of France. For Trump, that has been a subject of intense and tawdry interest for years. All interests of Trump's are tawdry, of course. Specifically, Trump has bragged to some of his closest associates, both during and after his time in the White House, that he knew illicit details about the love life of French President Emmanuel Macron. Two people with knowledge of the matter tell Rolling Stone, and the former president even claimed that he learned about some of this dirt through, quote, intelligence he had seen or been briefed on, these sources say. It's not clear whether the Macron-related document in the FBI seized... where was I in this? It's not clear whether the Macron-related document the FBI seized during the raid had anything at all to do with the French president's personal life. That's true. Nor is it clear whether the information on Macron seized from Mar-a-Lago is derived from U.S. intelligence or collected, intelligence collection, or even classified. Not that it matters for the crime part of it, but I see what they mean. But the mere revelation of its existence triggered a transatlantic freakout, according to two other sources familiar with the situation. And Trump's prior talk about Macron's allegedly naughty ways that not very many people know only intensified those concerns. Both French and U.S. officials worked to figure out precisely what Trump had on Macron and France's government, and if any of it was sensitive in nature, the sources said. The officials in both nations wanted to know if this discovery signified some kind of national security breach, or if it amounted to a frivolous but stolen keepsake. A spokesperson for the French embassy told Rolling Stone that their inquiry had not included asking the Biden administration for information on the documents recovered from Mar-a-Lago. By the way, if I had to take a guess, I would say that if there's anything that meets that definition, that is that it was not necessarily classified information or even particularly sensitive or bearing on national security, but was stolen as a tchotchke, a keepsake, that would probably be among them. It seems out of place among the other documents listed, but the descriptions of the documents are so vague that it might be a function of that vagueness rather than anything else. Anyway, in his musing on Macron's alleged indiscretions, like he's one to talk, Trump was light on details and specifics, according to the sources, and as a notorious gossip peddler for decades, it's difficult to know if any of what he says is grounded in reality. It is often, one of the sources says, hard to tell if he's BSing or not, and I could use the actual word here and bring out the censoring horn in order to do it, but you got the drift. A Trump spokesperson did not respond to questions from Rolling Stone. Trump's relationship with Macron has often been volatile, with the U.S. president once labeling his French counterpart "my guy" before the two fell out during Trump's time in the White House. Trump initially signaled his support for Macron's 2017 presidential rival, inviting far-right nationalist Marine Le Pen to Trump Tower and praising her in interviews. But Macron shrugged off the flirtation with his rival and invited Trump as the guest of honor to a Bastille Day parade in 2017. Trump was so taken with the elaborate military pageantry on display that it inspired him to ask for a military parade of his own, and that's how we got to the speech about ramming ramparts and taking over the airports. By 2019, tensions between the two men and their worldviews burst into the open. One was a crazy idiot and one was a normal guy, so that's going to be tension. After disputes between the two leaders over Iran, Syria, and NATO, Trump could be heard blasting Macron as a pain in the ass to a White House gathering of international ambassadors to the United Nations because he's such a tactful guy. Trump's former White House press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, also wrote in a memoir that Trump had privately called Macron a wuss guy and 120 pounds of fury. Okay. And the latest incident isn't the first time Trump has fixated on salacious gossip about the private lives of foreign leaders, associates and hangers-on say, as Republican rivals J.D. Vance and Josh Mandel vied for his endorsement in the Ohio GOP Senate primary. Trump personally spread rumors he'd heard about Mandel's sex life. Ooh, fun. And described the candidate as effing weird. Okay. Really? For him to think so. And Trump's decision to endorse Vance was nudged along by a rumor Trump heard from Fox News star Tucker Carlson about a prominent Mandel supporter's allegedly chronic sexual habit. Okay. That would be the kind of stuff that he would collect. During the 2016 presidential contest, Trump briefly ducked into his campaign war room and teased mid-level staffers with some alleged intel on a pair of MSNBC hosts who weren't yet public about their romance. You know who that is. You know, nobody else knows about it, but I know about Joe and Mika's little apartment on the Upper East Side, he gossiped, referencing Morning Joe hosts Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, whose long-running relationship would soon become public. One day, I'll tell you all about it. Except, it is interesting that he really thought that was, like, juicy and important. And other people were like, either, yeah, I know, or who cares? And really, honestly, who does care? One day, I'll tell you all about it, as if it was something important. Trump didn't even know these campaign staffers' names, but felt comfortable dishing this to them. And that's actually, it's an interesting thing. I mean, again, it's information that nobody really cares about, but it is indicative, I think, of a general principle where he doesn't care who the people are, and he doesn't even care to find out who the people are he's talking to. It's just, I'm in front of an audience and I want to enthrall them. And one of the ways I'll do that is to flaunt my powers. What are my powers? Oh, there's a lot. And I don't care about any of them beyond the ones where I get to know stuff that you're not allowed to know. But I could tell you, you know, like they say in the movies, I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. I'm not going to kill you. Seriously, I'm not going to. Please, come to Mar-a-Lago's Omelet Bar. It's delicious. It's fantastic. It's prime rib night on Thursday. You should be there. Well, everybody who's anybody is dropping prime rib fat on their laps at Pervalago. Come on over. Anyway, I tell you what, I'll give you half off, right? So anyway, I'll tell you all about it. Trump didn't even know these staffers' names, but felt comfortable dishing this to them. Let's see. Is that yeah, maybe it's a link here to, is this one of Aswin Subsang's tweets on the subject from back in February of 2020. What does this come from? I'm just sort of curious. An excerpt from the upcoming book, which I guess has now been published, from Lachlan Markay, remember him, and Aswin Subsang on the same book, I guess. So they co-authored that piece. For one, it includes this part where in September of 2016, Trump visited his war room, right, and told them about this. Here's the whole description. You know, nobody else knows about it, but I know all about their little apartment. Yada, yada. Is there anything extra to this? Meh, not really. But anyway, now we know, okay, this is his recapping his own reporting work for his book with Lachlan Markay. Okay, so good work. Trump's fixations extended to foreign leaders' families as well. Grisham wrote in her memoir that after seeing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on TV aboard Air Force One, Trump once pulled her aside, Grisham, that is, and made a crass assertion about the sex life of the Canadian Prime Minister's mother. Boy, oh boy. An assertion that left Grisham baffled. In his conversations with his associates, Trump didn't offer an explanation of how American spies acquired the supposed Macron dirt he claims to have seen, but the U.S. intelligence community has become much more cautious about spying on close allies over the past decade. And by the way, if it was in the document how American spies acquired the supposed Macron dirt, Trump probably it didn't register with him. He skimmed right over it, perhaps. And if it didn't involve things about other guys having sex and talking about it, I skipped right over it. I don't really care. Spy things, who cares? James Bond found out. The point is, Macron likes, I wonder what it is. He's into I don't know. What could we imagine? What would embarrass Emmanuel Macron? Probably not that much. Anyway, he doesn't really care how they got it. And so perhaps, luckily, we might be in little danger of Trump verbally giving away the store on how the information was collected, which is a legitimate concern. But probably it's more likely that if anybody ever finds out and those sources and methods are compromised, it's because he showed them the document rather than told them what was in it or left it available for someone else to see. He's probably not talking about sources and methods unless it's got some James Bondism. And first, the spy who finds this thing out, you're going to love this. The spy who found out about Macron, he got all the girls. He got all the girls. He was backstage with me at the 2013 Miss Teen Universe pageant in Moscow. I thought Putin was going to come for that one. It turns out he didn't show up, but all of his top guys were there. And right among them is this other guy. Turns out he's a James Bond, a total James Bond for us. And he got all the girls, and they're on him like, all right, well, I'll stop the story here because there's Boy Scouts present. So anyway, this is probably one of the stories he wanted to tell at the Boy Scout Jamboree. Revelations about American eavesdropping on former German Chancellor Angela Merkel prompted the Obama administration to severely restrict intelligence collection on allied heads of state under a 2014 directive known as PPD 28. I think PD, one of those PDs is presidential directive, but what's the other P? I don't know. PP, the PP tape from directive from me, the president. The Obama administration forbade eavesdropping on the leadership of close friends and allies absent a compelling national security purpose. After reviewing the order in 2017, the Trump administration announced that it would continue to abide by the Obama-era orders. Nonetheless, intelligence about foreign allies can still be swept up in the intelligence community's broad collection of secrets through more incidental routes. While PPD 28 certainly constrained the degree to which the U.S. would intentionally and directly collect on certain allied heads of state, there are plausible scenarios by which insights about them might be indirectly gleaned via collection against adversaries and their networks, human or technical. One former Trump White House official tells Rolling Stone. It's important that Rolling Stone know that history. And there's also, I guess, the possibility that Trump could have at some point said, well, Presidential Directive 28 here forbids eavesdropping on close friends and allies. But I hate Macron now. Now he's a dirty rat and I can't stand him. So now he's not a friend. So you should be eavesdropping on him. And particularly, I would like you to find out what he's doing with his wiener. Thank you very much. So, that's a possibility too. But like I said, my guess is Trump is less interested in the sources and methods and more interested in the stories about sex. You got anything about how much sex he's having? Because I'd like to know about that. All right. Well, that's very interesting to know about this stupid idiot who used to be president. What other information have we to round up today? Yes. I did pick up this tweet yesterday from NYC Southpaw, speculating in the same way that we did yesterday, that though the judge in the special master request motion indicates an openness to appointing a special master, there just might not be very much for them to do. The tweet here from yesterday, DOJ appears for the first time in the Florida special master proceeding and informs the court that, as expected, its attorney-client privilege review has already been completed. More filings to come this week from the department. A screen grab in their motion response says pretty much what we thought that they would say with respect to the special master thing. Although the government will provide the court more detail in its forthcoming supplemental filing, the government notes that before the court issued its preliminary order and in accordance with the judicially authorized search warrants provisions, the privilege review team, as described in paragraphs 81 to 84 of the search warrant affidavit, identified a limited set of materials that potentially contain attorney-client privileged information, completed its review of those materials, and is in the process of following the procedures set forth in paragraph 84 of the search warrant affidavit to address potential privilege disputes, if any. Additionally, the Department of Justice and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence are currently facilitating a classification review of materials recovered pursuant to the search. The Director of National Intelligence advised Congress ODNI is also leading an intelligence community assessment of the potential risk to national security that would result from the disclosure of these materials. So basically what they're saying is we've already gone through them and found materials that might potentially fall under attorney-client privilege. You can review it if you want, but there's not going to be a whole lot for a special master to do. That doesn't mean that they won't simply redo the whole thing with a special master, but the necessity of a special master, if you trust the FBI to do their own privilege review, and it may be the case that this judge simply doesn't, then the work is already done. But okay, we'll see what happens tomorrow in the hearing on this subject. Okay, let's see. Other things to add to the picture. Oh, well, this fills out a little more detail about the kind of things we know about Donald Trump and the legal team that he's putting together. And I did see somebody comment yesterday. I don't think I put this tweet aside, but saying, was it, I'll see if I can dig it up. But somebody objecting, I think, even to calling them a legal team. Like it's so ad hoc and so rapidly changing that it's difficult even to seriously refer to them that way. And also, of course, a lot of the filing that they're doing is only barely, recognizably legal work in the way that a normal attorney would have filed it. So, I guess, are they a legal team or not? I'm not really sure. I think it might even have been Jay Rosen who had brought the point up, and he probably put it more eloquently than I just did, but I'll see. Maybe we'll put, I'll open up a tab on Jay Rosen and see if I can scroll back during one of the breaks and find this stuff. Okay. So about Trump's attorneys that he's adding to the legal team, there was this interesting piece from Raw Story, Travis Getty's put out yesterday. Trump added an attorney named, we saw this name the other day, Jim Trusty. Like Jim Trusty to the rescue. Okay, Jim Trusty, why not? To Mar-a-Lago's legal team, or his Mar-a-Lago legal team, after seeing him on TV, because that's how he gets his lawyers. Do you have mesothelioma? Call our offices, et cetera, et cetera. Were you ever injured drinking bad water at Camp Lejeune? Have you been in a car accident? Whatever it is. They got all the late-night TV lawyers are on there. But I guess this was somebody on there. Must have been on, one of the news networks, fake news networks that he watches, defending him, I guess. Or maybe he just saw it's a lawyer named Trusty. I got to have that guy. Trusty the Clown. So apparently the guy, he's Trusty. You got to have the trusty lawyers, right? So I'll take the guy, Jim, I win all my cases. That's a weird last name, but okay. Anyway, Travis reports this news. Former President Donald Trump reportedly hired one of his lawyers who's defending him in the Mar-a-Lago search after seeing him on television. And everything in his life is after seeing something on television. Let me tell you something about Justin Trudeau's mother, Mama Trudeau, after I saw him on television. I just had to tell you, I know a little something about, anyway. The former president's legal team has drawn criticism for their work on the case, because they suck, and they were assembled hastily and unconventionally with little regard for their experience in national security matters, for instance, or other relevant topics, reported Insider. Used to be Business Insider, now just regular Insider, right? None of your business about this inside. What are we inside about? None of your business. That's part of the reason why the former president has trouble finding lawyers, said former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti, because he demands that they file documents and take positions that have no legal support whatsoever. Two of the lawyers, Evan Corcoran and Jim Trusty, do have experience as federal prosecutors, but Corcoran was hired this spring after speaking to Trump on a conference call, and Trusty was added after the former president saw him on television, according to the New York Times. Well, Well, I wonder if there's more background about that, but hopefully Travis will bring it all out. Corcoran was not vetted at all, according to a source close to Trump who spoke to the Washington Post, but he made clear during a call that he would take on a case that other advisors tried to avoid. So that's his main qualification, I guess. Trump's other attorneys in the case are former One America News Network host Christina Bobb, Florida insurance lawyer, Lindsay Halligan. Okay. You gotta have, the insurance lawyer, and Alina Haba, who previously served as general counsel for a parking garage firm. It's experience. I already have excellent and experienced lawyers. I didn't realize it was doing Trump until I got to the end here. Trump said in a Truth Social post in response to reports on his unconventional team. So Jim Trusty, that's a good one. I had some slightly more information about Evan Corcoran from Empty Wheel. We'll jump in and hope that we don't get lost in the references and the jargon, but I think this was an intriguing headline anyway, and if we can't get to the bottom of things and reading the substance of the article, then you know where to turn. EmptyWheel.net, of course. Key details about Evan Corcoran that Evan Corcoran did not disclose. To whom? To Judge Eileen Cannon. What are those details? Over the weekend, Judge Eileen Cannon ordered DOJ, which had not yet been formally served in Donald Trump's civil suit to get a special master appointed, to conduct a review of the materials seized from his home, to take initial steps, ordered DOJ to take initial steps towards appointing a special master. There are a lot of procedural reasons why this is crazy, but Judge Cannon might be excused for believing some grave wrong has been done against the former president. That's because the two filings that his lawyers submitted, neither of which was accompanied by a sworn declaration, by the way, were wildly misleading. I'd like to lay out a few of those details here. Let's see. Her original sources on these things are linked here. The first and then the later supplemental filing with the courts by Corcoran. One of the lawyers who signed the filings, of course, is Evan Corcoran. Some useful background first. In the Steve Bannon case, that's where Corcoran comes from. Corcoran let Bannon's earlier attorney, Robert Costello, join his defense team, even though Costello was a witness in the case against Bannon. He did so even after DOJ warned that might pose a problem. Ultimately, Costello conceded that might pose a conflict, and he dropped off the team. So even in the last year, Corcoran has been rather flexible about where the role of defense attorney ends and the role of witness begins. Now, let's look at the filings that Corcoran signed with two others. One thing that Evan Corcoran didn't bother to tell Eileen Cannon is that Evan Corcoran plays a lead role in the filing. The following are actions described in the two Trump filings that Evan Corcoran is either known or by consistent reference must have done, but which are attributed only to Trump's counsel. And it is a bullet-pointed list here, and it includes communicated with DOJ, the White House, and NARA about the documents. On June 3rd, met with Jay Bratt at Mar-a-Lago. He told Bratt and 3 FBI agents that Trump consented to a search of a storage room that contributed to the probable cause that Trump was still refusing to return classified documents. He asked Bratt to communicate with him if they needed anything more. On June 8th, received an email directing Trump to secure the storage room. He was the person informed of the search on August 8th. He engaged in heated discussion after being so informed. He asked 3 questions after being informed of the search. He refused to turn off surveillance video during the search. Was he asked to do that? I wonder why. We was informed on August 11th that the FBI had seized materials that might include privileged material, and on August 11th he stated the following to Jay Bratt. President Trump wants the Attorney General to know that he has been hearing from people all over the country about the raid. If there was one word to describe their mood, it is angry. The heat is building up. The pressure is building up. Whatever I can do to take the heat down, to bring the pressure down, just let us know. Except nobody really took him at his word about that one. Let's see, of course, he was informed that the filter agents who searched the former president's office had taken 3 passports. Some other details regarding events in which Corcoran was involved that he did not disclose to Judge Cannon include that after a meeting with Bratt, Trump did not identify and provide all classified documents at Mar-a-Lago to DOJ in response to a subpoena. There's a couple more bullet points here, but of course our break coming up. The major theme here is that he continues to represent Trump, although really he should be getting his own lawyer at this point. Hi, it's me, David Waldman, the same guy who was just talking to you a second ago. Our Patreon subscription drive is still going strong, with over 175 monthly donors who help keep us on the air. If we've helped keep you going during the pandemic, why not return the favor and help us keep going so we can all be together for the next disaster? Patreon.com, Patreon.com, makes it easy to make secure, recurring monthly contributions to support our show. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. Maybe you'd like to thank us for keeping you sane during the Trump era. Maybe you're looking forward to in-depth explanations of what's going on in the Biden administration. Whatever it is that keeps you listening, we need your help to keep bringing it to you. And hey, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running with those options too. Thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We literally could not do this without you. All right, welcome back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I wish we had gotten that. I think it just happened just before the air, but I have to go back and grab that as a sound effect at some point. I like that. Shouting that. I've done the same thing, except, of course, I can't say it's about myself, but these things happen. I like that. For those of you who missed it, but just letting Mom know in the background, I'm on with Kagro, Mom. Is that either, I can't answer your question right now, or you should go listen, or I don't know, but some of both, perhaps. Anyway, welcome back to all of you. How are things going there? Are things settling down a bit in your move, or no? No, I guess not. Okay, that was a stupid question.
I'm in a house.
Okay, that's good. With a mouse.
Yeah. Boxes.
Okay.
Oh, the boxes.
All right, so not yet settling down, but you're indoors. That's good.
There's a problem with being a bibliophile when you move.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only are there lots of boxes, but they're heavy. Oh, my God.
And it's a 1920 house, and boy, does it have scary stairs.
Oh.
And the office is up there.
Okay. Well, yeah, so heavy books, heavy boxes up scary stairs to the office, and you can't leave the books in the boxes either. If you are that kind of bibliophile, you're probably trying to dig, which one did I have that in? I need that. There's that book, that one book that I need among 15 others that I actually need, and digging them out. Okay, so I can imagine the scene there. Well, you probably have to turn to the books for reading material since we're in the August recess, so maybe not all the usual excitement that keeps you busy otherwise. Good time to move, perhaps, but
it is. It's quieter.
Okay.
At least in terms of Congress.
Yeah, right.
There's the orange elephant in the room that's really sort of...
Yeah, well, he keeps
not
me
letting
occupied.
anything be quiet, but...
Right, and he provides plenty of content and material, and that's we appreciate that. Or I guess I should say I can appreciate the Department of Justice and the January 6th Committee providing me with all the content and material. That he has to answer it. Good, great. He's that provides the entertainment side of it. But, we were just... going over all the information, not only about, well, what he has spent his last couple days saying, oh, I'm the rightful president, I should be restored, they should do the 2020 election over again. Then the fun story about, I know something really dirty about Macron. You want to hear it? And
I missed that one.
Oh, that's new from Rolling Stone, apparently, that he's been going around telling people, and people have been speculating, and they're wondering, they saw that listing on the list of documents seized from his swinger club there in Florida that had listed information about the president of France, and that was all they said in the list. People trying to figure out what it was, but apparently that's a That's a story that's been circulating about Trump, is that he loves to gossip about everything. And
Yes.
the example of him telling staffers he didn't even know their names, staffers on the campaign. Let me tell you something about certain two MSNBC hosts who aren't public with their relationship yet, but let me tell you what they're doing. I have video. You should see this. He didn't really actually go with the video thing, but he was gossiping. I know all about them and their little love nest in the Upper East Side that he was just spilling the beans on. Joe and Mika, which, I don't care. He spills the beans on them, but yeah, just that's the kind of guy that we're talking about. And, that's the kind of guy you don't tell classified information to if you can help it. But if you've made him president, there's nothing else you can do but tell him classified stuff. So apparently that, plus also Stephanie Grisham telling a story about him seeing Justin Trudeau on television and pulling her aside to say, I got something dirty on his mom. You want to hear about that?
Oh, God.
He's really just a treasure, isn't he? So,
anyway. This morning he's spending his time tweeting or truthing, I should say, and untruthing a bunch of QAnon and 4chan and just ridiculously insane stuff.
Well, yeah.
It's another flurry of posts from him apparently this morning.
All right, yeah.
Many of which he's having to pull down because
I
don't. At least that was one report I saw that he's
interesting. I mean, it's his own thing, his own
from
network.
Ivanka supposedly that was an anti-vax statement or anti-vax something from Ivanka, and he put that up and then took that down.
Yeah, well, maybe that is
Ivanka probably called and said, "Hey, don't drag me into this."
Really? Yeah. I'm hoping. I mean, she's not that responsible, but she might be calling to say, "You're probably right. Don't drag me into it," as opposed to, "Dad, I'm going to have you committed. Like this is no longer responsible for us. This is, as I always say, is elder abuse for us to let you continue like this. Just because Don makes money on it doesn't mean it's helping me any. I'm gonna." I'll sue him for power of attorney over you and put you away. So, why not?
You would think she would have enough sense of self-preservation.
Yeah, I mean, her husband's got $2 billion to guard now, so
yeah,
it can't be put at risk. Right? That's an interesting thing. That's some Thanksgiving you have there, right? Listen, Dad. I have $2 billion in my pocket now. One, I got to preserve it for us and for the kids. But for another thing, the people who gave it to me will chop me into pieces if you don't shut up. We may have to put you in a home. So that might keep him quiet. Maybe that accounts for pulling down anti-vax tweets. But why would he be pulling down anything on a social media platform he ostensibly owns and runs, though he does no work for it and put no money into it? So
good question.
I wonder. It can't be Devin Nunes giving him advice that works either. That can't be the case. So somebody somewhere probably said, "Yeah, we don't want this happening," but why? I'm not sure. But yeah, I had heard there was another report about the New York Times was documenting how many QAnon nuts who had been banned from Twitter were verified on Truth Social, and he's been retweeting the whole time. So not terribly surprising, but what can you do? He is who he is, and he appears to be guilty of infractions against the Espionage Act. And
you could lock him up.
Yeah,
that's one thing you could do.
That's and it's a good idea too. And I wonder whether that eventually becomes the plea deal as well, rather than if you're going to indict him and it really looks like you're going to be able to send him to jail, do Ivanka and Jared and others intervene and say, we will have him involuntarily committed to a assisted living facility, let's say, instead, and take away his phone. Will that satisfy the United States government? And I hope not. But that is to say, I hope that the government says, no, we're going to put him in a cell. That's where we're going to put him. But yeah, I'm not, this is not me hoping for his continued good health or anything like that, like a normal human being. I want him gone. So I'm not going out of my way to be nice about that.
I would like to see him. I would very much like to see him prosecuted.
Yes. Well,
because, we've been here before. He didn't get impeached.
Right.
He didn't get convicted by the Senate.
Right.
Because, I don't know, something about Valentine's Day?
Yeah, right. We have to get out of here. We can't have any witnesses or evidence. I have reservations. Not reservations about trying the president for treason. I have restaurant reservations tonight I have to get to. Yeah, that was always that was a weird. And we don't have a good record at all, stretching back years, for any of the various Republican presidents who should have been prosecuted for one thing or another. We just don't do that, except this is of a different kind and of a different, it's a quantum difference between what Trump has done and others have done. And they should have been prosecuted anyway. But this is just crazy.
War crimes and torture was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, people were upset about that. Isn't that interesting?
But actual espionage.
Yeah. Right. That's very difficult to defend, and everybody understands it as, keep putting it in movie terms and say Trump stole the knock list, which is probably not a real thing, but in movie terms, everybody understands what that was if they saw Mission Impossible, which is not everybody,
including me. I have absolutely no idea what that means.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, I'll explain briefly. Yeah, the whole thing revolves around spies and double agents and everything, and somebody is trying to steal from the CIA and give to the bad guys the non-official cover NOC, non-official cover list of I'm sure fictional, but maybe based on something, list of people on, clandestine assignments for the intelligence services overseas. Now you'll be able to identify them and kill them off if you want to. And the whole thing revolves around someone stealing it and trying to steal it back and bring it back undercover. But Trump has basically done that.
Yeah, here's a new wrinkle for that. It's the president who did it.
That's the tough part, right? You might have seen around in cultural references or seen the clips of this is the clip of Tom Cruise, lowering down on a wire into the super secure room in the CIA and hovering over the floor. Did you ever see that?
Yeah,
that's what that comes from. He's in there, but this is like a list that's so super secret that only one guy has access to it, and he has to check in through 5 different things that scan his eyes and his palm print, and he sits down, and there's sensors in the room that when he leaves it and locks it up, if the temperature of the room rises because there's a body in it, alarms go off, all these things. That's the way they portray it in the movies. I don't think it's really like that, but the point is...
Well, clearly it's not really like that if...
it's in Mar-a-Lago.
He falls on it.
Right, that's true. But yeah, there was that report, people are now recounting and remembering that Trump at some point in office, just baldly asks the CIA, give me a list of all the top spies. I don't know what he meant or what they thought he meant or whether he meant anything in particular, but he demanded some sort of list. I don't think that is what they were insinuating was in the boxes, but there was apparently information that names of people who should be undercover and who should be having their identities protected. And that was at Mar-a-Lago. And maybe if you take a wrong turn from the buffet, you find it. Because there was no locks on the door or anything. I don't know why anybody would. I don't know why a hapless, rich rube from West Palm Beach would wander into the room and say, I think I'll stay here rather than go and get the prime rib. But it's the Chinese operatives who've paid the $200,000 that we're worried about. This is what I was looking for in the first place. I don't even eat prime rib.
Right.
But
the Ukrainian young women posing as Rothschilds.
Yes. Hello, my name is Richie Rich, and I would like to be in your club. Really? Okay. That's fine. Your ID says McLovin, but okay. It should be fine. I don't know. That's weird. But that worked, and it's not the first time that worked either. Hasn't he been
I don't think
before?
we have any idea the extent to which he's been compromised.
Yeah.
I think everything that you can imagine is probably even worse.
Probably true. And it's all beginning to come out now. And I was surprised to see, well, not surprised, but I was interested to see in the pictures of this woman who said she was a Rothschild that, not surprised to see her with Trump, but there's Lindsey Graham there too. And Mr. Loudmouth trying to intervene in all this. And he gets fooled into this garbage too and gets in pictures with her. He's really, I mean, his mental capacity has been halved by his association with Trump.
At least halved.
It's
it's really a bizarre thing. I'm not going to diagnose from afar, but you have to wonder if something's not going on there, because he has always been acerbic. He's always been obnoxious.
Yes.
But, at a certain point, he maybe had some principle.
Maybe. I mean, maybe when he thought he was being friends with
John McCain.
Maybe he
McCain's
thought
best
McCain
buddy.
will think that's important. I'll pretend to have some principle. It's, yeah. He's definitely, I mean, he fell apart and stemmed. He turned on a dime too, like after a golf game for what. And I wonder if this was. I don't think this was it. I think he played at in Virginia. It was when it turned him. But how often did he play golf with Trump that he ends up in the picture with the latest spy to show up at Mar-a-Lago?
That was a bizarre picture too.
Yeah. The thumbs
Lindsey
up
Graham looked tiny.
He's a small guy.
Trump looked huge. Anyway.
Yeah.
I just was slightly distracted by Lindsey Graham looking like an elf.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. It was almost as though he's shrinking in the photo. Like, I know I'm not really should not be in this photo. This is not good.
Does he know that though?
I don't know.
I mean, at one point it was the thought, well, okay, Trump obviously has some dirt on him.
Yes.
And then this is why. But no, because now Trump's out of office, but he's still being the toady. So apparently he's a true believer.
Yeah, either that or, yeah, I mean, maybe it just still is the dirt thing, especially now. Now that we're seeing like this Rolling Stone report that anybody he has dirt on, he loves to spill it. And although, I mean, even if you hang around as a toady, like, do you think that it's registering with Trump? Oh yeah, put him on the list of people not to spill on because he's been a good toady. I'm sure it's all accidental and he would just spill it regardless, and have no idea about whether the person he's gossiping about is on his good list or not. But I don't know. I guess that's depending on the secret you're guarding. I suppose that's the most efficient way. Hang around a lot and remember, don't tell that bad stuff about me. Okay.
It still seems odd to me. It still seems.
Well, he's a weirdo.
He is a weirdo.
And I don't know how to explain it other than he's got to be protecting something. And now, of course, he's gotten himself in so much trouble with the Georgia grand jury, etc., that, I mean, he might be thinking, I just need to hold on for dear life. If there's anybody that has any possibility of coming through this impossible gauntlet for no good reason, it would be Donald Trump. And I suppose if I'm clinging to him, maybe I'll get out the other side. Except, well, Trump paves the road to the other side with the bodies of the people who cling to him.
Right.
So I don't know what he thinks, but maybe it's just terrible odds one way or the other. Slightly less terrible to actually risk being destroyed by Trump by clinging to him, maybe, because if I defect, he'll throw me under the bus immediately. But
it's possible.
I mean, there's really just no way to survive this. But I'm glad it's Lindsey Graham trying to survive the situation, and well, one, not me, and two, not anybody I care about. Because it doesn't look like it's going to work.
Lindsey. No. Lindsey's hard to care about.
Yeah,
frankly.
He makes it difficult. Well, let's see. What other fun things have you been reading about or occupying time with besides your very hectic move, although you're welcome to talk about that, but I bet you don't want to.
No.
Okay.
I have all of the, last week was pretty sheer hell. Vets.
Oh, yes,
vet appointments, right. Cancer diagnoses in dogs. Just it's been a time.
I'll bet.
Makes me sort of long for a straightforward government shutdown to
well, why not a good old
occupy my mind with.
Right.
Coming back to Congress, because Congress is going to come back in 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, that's probably about right.
Post Labor Day. So
yeah, they'll have to go to parades and such.
We will have that. We will have the government funding fight. Republicans are not going to be shutting down government this time around.
I think
they don't have the numbers to do it, and I don't think that they would have the stomach for doing it. Because there's an election coming up, and they've got enough problems.
Yes.
Like, Trump.
But they are doing all the wrong things for their elections. So I guess if they want to be consistent, they should also shut down the government. But I'm glad they won't be able to.
I'm glad they won't be able to, because that's one headache I do not need. Of course, that, they're going to ruin our holiday season. We do know that ahead of time, because they always do. Regardless of whether they get a majority in the House, which is probably going to happen, but not as likely as it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, well, hope it keeps trending away from them.
Seemingly more and more unlikely in the Senate.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, there should be at least one of them that I'm hoping against hope, but obviously it would be a disaster to lose control of either. But if you have to lose control of one, to be able to hold on to the other so that you can keep a lid on things in terms of crazy legislation being rammed through, I guess that's fine. We'll have to take it.
It would be good to have both.
Much better.
And
obviously.
It's possible.
Sure.
I'm
hoping for it.
Possible that things are so horrible right now for Republicans that even gerrymandering doesn't save them for the House.
Maybe they will be too busy rioting to conduct their campaigns and therefore lose.
Thank you, Lindsey Graham.
Yes, another
perhaps.
Lindsey Graham moment.
I can't predict anything, but it does look like we're keeping the Senate and possibly even making some gains, because Republicans are really, really, really bad about picking people in primaries.
Yeah.
I was amused that Mitch McConnell decided he had to campaign for Walker and Oz and I can't remember the third one yesterday.
Oh, I didn't realize that he had to. All right.
Yeah, after last week and his comment about what was it? Not unqualified candidates, problematic candidates. I don't remember his exact words.
Something about candidate quality, I think, was maybe how
candidate quality being a problem. So he pops up and has to campaign with those candidates whose quality he was questioning the week before.
Yeah. I mean, all right, well, I guess he'll just do it in the coldest, most distant possible way, show up and grimace. And I'd be curious about some of these candidates, whether they don't want to cling to him. Do they want him to show?
Well, this is a question because Trump keeps attacking him.
Right. Dr. Oz probably has no idea and says, oh, yeah, sure, I'll take it. But I don't know who else. I mean, the other people are, if they're Trumpy enough, they're going to be anti-McConnell, or may even have won their primary saying that they wouldn't vote for McConnell for majority leader if they would win the Senate.
Do you think Herschel Walker's thinking that much ahead?
Well, if nobody gave him a card,
do you think he knows who Mitch McConnell is?
That might be. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, well, there's no point in trying to read Herschel Walker. Yeah, that's true. I had forgotten about him. And you said Walker, and it didn't even register who we were talking about until you just reminded me. Oh my God, he's nominated. That's right. I've forgotten about that. But yeah, all right. Who else is he going to campaign for? So Oz and Walker, and I think you mentioned a third.
And I can't remember who the third was. I'm sorry.
But he's not doing Are others like
he
Vance
did an actual
saying,
fundraiser for them.
Okay.
And they were in the room with him.
Well, money, that's another thing entirely. But yeah, a lot of campaigning that's going on. It's becoming a big deal here in Virginia who Glenn Youngkin, nice guy in a vest, is campaigning for, all the worst Republican candidates for governor who have all the, the most horrible comments on record and the worst associations in terms of, I don't know, who's on their campaign staff or who they've done podcasts with or whatever. And they're doing a good job beating up Youngkin and reminding everybody, when push comes to shove, he endorses and works to campaign and elect the worst Republican jerks out there. Don't make any mistake that just because he didn't have to do those things for his campaign that he isn't like that. Because he is. So, we learn a lot about these guys at campaign time. I believe you've got your mute on, Joan. Unless that was it.
How did I do that?
I don't know.
Was trying to open up a link and I accidentally pushed mute.
Okay.
It was Herschel Walker, Oz, and Rep. Ted Budd, who was running for the seat that Burr is leaving in North Carolina, which I don't know that much about him because I'm sure, if it's a Republican running in North Carolina and he's a House representative, he's going to be pretty crazy. But I don't know anything about Ted Budd. Do you?
No, I don't. Sounds like Ted Bundy. I know that. And
that's not good.
And swapping Burr for Bud seems like a Matrix glitch. Like they just double R switch to double D, and that's it. That's the whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they save money on signage or something.
They just have
they only have
D stickers
letters
and just slap them onto the Burr signs. Yeah, I don't know. That's okay. I really don't know anything about him either, but it's weird that they don't have a deeper bench of more important people in North Carolina. North Carolina senators used to be jerks, but people of substance in terms of presence, anyway, not substance.
Right.
But okay. Well, good. One day we'll pick them off and be rid of them. And North Carolina's the kind of state that occasionally does that.
Kind of sleeping this Senate round, isn't it?
Yes, they must be exhausted from being in the spotlight for several cycles in a row. Thanks. I
mean, you're not hearing anything about North Carolina.
No, in fact, even who the hell is running?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Former state Supreme Court Justice Cheryl Beasley.
What? Who is doing?
Sherry Beasley.
Okay.
Is the Democrat and.
All right. Yeah. See, we're not even hearing about the Dems.
No, wait.
We'll vote for her.
Have they had their primary?
I guess we're all asleep.
I am so bad at this. I am so bad at this.
Well, there's a lot on your plate and a lot on your mind, but yeah, you know what? I couldn't tell you, but you're right. It's been rather quiet, certainly, and all the North Carolinians are now saying, "How could you have possibly missed this?" We post on this all the time.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of states.
Yeah, the primaries passed, and
okay,
we have Sherry Beasley.
All right.
As the Democrat, Ted Budd. And seven others.
7
running in the general election.
Wow. How are they one of the states?
Matthew Ho, what is G? Green, Shannon Bray, Libertarian, Hayden Boyd, Independent, Michelle Lewis, Independent, Kimry Reinhart, Independent, Brenda Rodriguez, Independent, and Mark White, Independent.
There's a lot of embarrassed Republicans in that state, I guess. I imagine, hopefully they're all Republican splinter candidates and they take away from Ted Budd. But he's got the advantage of a short name.
Yes.
That's about it. But, okay, about a former Supreme Court justice running on the Democratic ticket, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all. So, sorry, North Carolina. We will bone up on what's happening in North Carolina and maybe talk about that next week.
We better.
Boy, I feel bad about having just kind of ignored that one.
Yes. On the other hand, I would lay even odds that they ignored Idaho for a very long time.
Well, yeah, that can happen. I mean,
you guys can get together and commiserate about that. And the point is, we feel bad and feel guilty, and so we'll talk to our North Carolina people and get up to speed on what's going on there. Okay, well, this happens to the best of us, and in fact, it just did. So, we'll move on from there. And but anyway, thank you for coming by in the midst of all your chaos. And I hope things are okay there, and best wishes for your dog. Have some difficulties, I guess, yeah?
Yeah, we're in the end times for poor little Annie.
Okay. Well, we all know about that. We've all been through that, so best wishes to you all for that. I appreciate your coming on this week and catching up with us. And
I may actually even be in my office when it happens next week.
Okay, excellent. So we'll hear about how that goes, and you won't have to call down to Mom for anything in the middle. Okay, very good. Well, thanks again, and we'll catch up with you next week when we're closer to the end of this recess.
Absolutely.
From networksradio.com.
Let's see.
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
Yeah, and that seemed like a good thing for you to spend your time on doing. Right next up, of course, Justice Putnam back on the air today with the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and today classified story about the classified information. All those classified and other sensitive U.S. documents. What were they doing down at Pervalago? Well, he hasn't got any real explanation for it yet.